areas. You can come along and put in fencing, and you can, and previously you probably had a herd running in each one of those paddocks. So you can run a herd in each one of these paddocks. Notice we fenced off the water courses there. Why do you think we do that? Is it important? That's a special habitat, both from a water point of view, biodiversity, and also controlling the soil erosion. So you want to manage the areas around your rivers really, really carefully. And the NRCS programs insist that you do this for a number of very good reasons. If you've got them separate, you can provide specific management to those areas so that you have them in the best condition.
What's the stocking rate on these paddocks and the size of them?
Okay, this is all theoretical stuff. But the guys I'm working with, like that guy that's at Henrietta, where he had 6,000 animals, he runs 3 separate herds, and he changes grazing to a new area every day, and he lets them rest for about 60 days before he comes back in there during the growing season. His average paddock size will be around about 60 to 80 acres. And that's all electric fencing, so it's not expensive. That's just to put in the ballpark.
So this could be actually looking at 600 acres possibly here in this system?
Even less.
Or less?
I know people who've got 100 acres, 200 acres, using the same principles. We're talking about principles here. I don't want to infer that I think the wagon wheel's the only way to go. They're very different anyway. We're just a concept now.
Okay.
So you can have a single herd in there. So you tend to think, well, that's nice and easy, we can do that. But the people who are achieving the best results, they will have a single herd that they run through all of these. So then you can stay for a very short period and give it the length of recovery and achieve the fastest results. We'll come back to that later on.
I noticed you on that previous illustration you have paddock divisions on inside the river section. Would you graze that like when it's drier or something? See on the illustration, you got your alleyway and you got your little cross paddock divisions on.
Yeah, that's a good question. You make that decision according to your goals on your property.
Right.
What do you want with that overrun area compared to the rest?
Right.
So you manage it specifically to achieve your goals with that piece of turf.
Right.
It might be wildlife. It might be to make sure they're not getting into the water to muddy it up.
Right.
So you do different things at different times of the year according to your goals.
Yeah.
But these areas are really important from a wildlife point of view.
Exactly.
So often that's your refuge area. Often you would graze those areas in the non-growing season because you can have the least detrimental effect, getting bugs in the water and that sort of thing.
Right.
So you've got to think about it and make sure what are the right things I want to achieve in making that decision. Yes, sir.
With this principle right here, it goes to the small farmer too. Somebody has 40 acres, you can do that same principle in less cows.
Yes.
But you can still.
I'm beginning my talk on rangeland, but we transition to a cultivated pasture situation where generally you've got a smaller area with more animals, and we'll revisit those particular situations, yes. So, this is now getting into my research. With all my observations around the world and seeing that research really didn't work in terms of improving things, but many of the ranchers were improving things a lot. So when I look at that, I said, okay, this is what I believe. At the commercial ranch scale, if you use multi-paddock grazing to manage it proactively, so you've got the best animal and the best vegetation results, then you will produce superior conservation and restoration, ecosystem goods and services like clean water and reducing erosion, and also ranch profitability. To do that realistically, so it has meaning for the farmers, I worked in partnership with the ranchers in those particular counties. In each of those counties, we had a holistic plain grazing person who was doing a good job. We sought out the best continuous grazer that was nearby him, and then another ranch that was run along the lines that most people were doing in the area, usually heavy continuous grazing. So those 3 treatments we did in each one of those 3. And this is what we were looking at. From those 3 neighboring ranches in each county, we looked for the best case scenario MP grazing, which is planned holistic management grazed at a heavy rate. This is changeable. You change according to the amount of grass you've got under this management. The usual case grazing was heavy continuous grazing at roughly the same amount. It's pretty heavy. If you're playing golf in the end of summer on the usual case grazing, you won't lose your ball. But on the other ones, the interesting thing is the other guys with good grazing management, they've got more cattle and they've got more grass. It doesn't happen often, and it's only good management that produces it. So the best case of continuous grazing using the NRCS level of stocking was half that, twice the number of acres per cow. And we made sure that each of the ranches that we were studying had been operating in the same way for about 10 years. When you change management, if you take an area over and you improve your grazing management, how many years before you can actually see or measure a difference? A lot. And what I'd seen was you need about 10 years, so that's what we went with. So let's look at some of the figures here. Heavy continuous, multi-heavy count, heavy multi-count, and light continuous. This is the amount of bare ground. In tall grass prairie, that is a huge amount of bare ground. Imagine how much water they're losing and how much soil erosion is happening. Huge amount. These guys, nothing. These guys very low. Soil microbes, remember, these are the little puppies that drive everything. You look at the different grazing managements. The total bacteria, pretty much the same. The little A there, and A's all the way through, show those are not significantly different. Where they are different, the A means it's higher than that significant. The total fungi, very high, next highest. The fungal to bacterial ratio, this is about the normal level for these grasslands. Look how much higher that is. Why is that important? Fungi are extremely important. You see the roots here? It doesn't show up in the slide, but that area there is basically the roots. The extension of those roots is fungi. The fungi reach more soil volume, and they can reach into smaller areas. Their hyphae are 15 times thinner than plant roots. They can get right into areas that plant roots can never get, and they dig up the nutrients from there. Where do the fungi get their energy from? From the plants. So, plant feeds energy to the fungi, fungi feeds stuff to the plant. Creates all these beneficial things. Extending root volume, increases the amount of soil carbon, it increases the amount of water retention and nutrient retention. Increases drought resistance because you've got connection to a greater volume of soil. And the people who've done the research show that the highest fungal to bacterial ratio produces the highest growth. These things work for you for food. They increase photosynthesis, they increase your plant productivity. You've got to look after these. If you farm badly, you'll kill them.
Do they grow on every kind of plant?
Some more than others, but most plants are connected to the fungi in some way. Yeah. Plants, obligate fungal plants like big bluestem and stuff require them. If there's no fungus there, you won't have those really productive plants. But not all plants require them. Okay, let's look at the productivity of the grasses. These are the most productive, the tall grasses, and you'll see that they produce much higher, 2,500 kilograms per hectare is the same as acres, pounds per acre. So this is way higher than everything else, certainly that, but also this. And you're going to say, hang on, how do they produce more grass here when they've got double the stock? Well, I'll tell you why, because here, you graze the plant off from there, you graze it down here, and you get off until it comes back again. Whereas over here, the animal trots down to drink for water, and as he's walking back, he knows what all those big bluestem plants are. There's this one regrown there, and when it's regrown, you'll take this stuff off, so it keeps it like this. And it keeps the productivity low and decreases from that area. So that's how you reach that situation. Mid-grasses are the next most productive, and you can see most of the mid-grasses take off where there's been a reduction in the tall grasses. And the productivity of these, again, is the lowest. Annual forbs. This is what people call weeds. And when the guy who sells weed stuff looks at your place, he comes to you and he says, "You got a problem, I can help you." Is he really going to help you? One of the principles of good management is to not treat symptoms, to treat causes. The reason you've got the weeds there is because of poor grazing. So if you come and spray the weeds, well, you look real good for a while. But you've got to do it next year, and the year after, and the year after. But if you're managing well, the plants you want will make sure that the weeds are not a problem. They won't cost you anything. And you've actually solved the problem that caused the weeds in the first place. So, aggregate stability. Aggregate stability is the little crumb structure and stuff that's fundamental to getting water into the ground and providing a home for the little microbes so that they're producing all the energy and nutrients for the plants. So even though you have this high impact for a very short period of time, you can see this was higher than that, and this was intermediate between the two. This is high because unless you break the sod with a plow, your aggregate stability usually stays pretty good. The perennial plants are in there all the time, maintain your aggregate stability. You plow this, and your aggregate stability will pop down to level in about 3 or 4 years.
For instance, where does the whole like mineral balancing come in? For instance, you have a really heavy clay that has through the roof magnesium content. How does that affect something like aggregate stability when clay is sticking together so tightly?
All sorts of funny things happen when, if you've got a healthy microbial population in there, they're the ones that dictate what nutrients that are in the soil actually get fed into the plant. So you can have a situation where you've got an imbalance in the soil that we measure with our chemical analyses. But if you've got a healthy microbial population there, then in fact, then the microbes facilitate the plants getting a better nutrient status. We can dwell about that in question time later on. Organic matter is the key. The more organic matter you've got,